I'm going to be out with a group of my friends hiking the Oregon Mountains Desert Peak National Monument, but there's going to be a twist to this one. I injured my leg a few days prior, so my goal for this is to try to make it at least 3 miles or farther and see how this goes. You're also going to see the terrain change and different types of plants and animals as we make our way through. So one of the horizons will be at Baylor Pass. Baylor Pass has at least 2 different trailheads. There's also one in Gary Springs. We happen to be on the one that's off of Baylor Pass Road, which is accessible from the exit of Highway 70 near NASA Road. Initially, it starts off with relatively flat desert land and just a few rocks here and there. This part is going to be the easiest part of the trail, and this is the part that I wasn't really that worried about. This is the part that I knew I could at least handle this section. It's just going to be a matter of finding out whether or not I can keep going up the side of the mountain or not. Didn't take us very long before we started spotting wildlife. This is going to be our first deer sighting. The deer here are almost the same color as the camouflage as the desert, so unfortunately they are a little hard to spot. I don't know if you can see it on the camera at home or not. Maybe some of you with the 4K TVs would have a better chance and be able to see it. And it wasn't that much time before we got to see our next sighting. Here it is again. There's actually several deer. Hopefully you can see them at home. Apologize if you can't make them out on the camera. But there was at least 3 deer there, but some of them were a little hard to see because of their camouflage and their color. Now up ahead is the rockier sections. This is the part that I started to worry about. I was using some hiking sticks, just as I knew I had my injury. I was also walking most of the time in the front of the group, so I was kind of setting the pace to some extent. But I really wanted to finish this hike as I knew with my schedule I wouldn't have an opportunity to go hiking for a while because of other plans I have coming up. There was actually several members of the group that don't want to be seen on YouTube, so there was actually quite a large group. If I remember correctly, I believe there was 9 of us out. There's some locust or a cricket grasshopper. So I'd fallen at work a few days earlier, fell hard enough that I knocked the wind out of me, and unfortunately I wasn't hurt too bad except for where I caught below my knee. As you can tell, I am walking reasonably okay in that video. Just in case this didn't work out, I did have a vehicle that I came alone in. Now, the trail is starting to get more and more beautiful as we go on. And the nicer thing is, as we went on, it was gaining an elevation, so we're able to get some fantastic views from up high. The weather for this hike was actually almost perfect, so we're blessed with having beautiful weather, and it wasn't too hot, wasn't too cold either. And I did notice that the trail was getting overgrown, so at first I was assuming that maybe people weren't using this trail very often anymore. I know this used to be a very popular hiking trail, but we also had a lot of rains lately, so that could have explained why it got overgrown in some places as well. If you do decide to come out here, one thing you got to know is that there are no bathrooms, parking is free, and there's also no water shade sources whatsoever. So make sure to bring a camel pack or some sort of hydration with you. And also don't forget sunscreen since there's no shade. Also, if you could subscribe to this channel, I would appreciate it. One thing I love about the Oregon Mountains is they have lots of trails everywhere. They even have trails that have waterfalls. There's trails with pine trees. There's various features out there. There's even abandoned buildings in some places, as well as caves. So if you want to check out some of these things I'm talking about, I am in the process of making other videos, and I already have lots of videos uploaded for the Las Cruces area and the hiking in this section. So if you want to go over to the Traveling Las Cruces or to the Las Cruces link that I'll put at the end, you'll have access to a bunch of other videos about this area. You see those plants that's right in front of me that kind of prickly, look like needles? Those are called yuccas. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think they're technically considered a flower, even though I'm not sure exactly how that works. But they're very common indigenous plant in this area. Now, the trail is getting a little bit more difficult in this section. So far, just very wide open, beautiful space. Other than the fact that I was with a group of people, I felt like I was almost by myself. You know, most of the people are walking behind me. I guess I gotta stay behind the cripple. A little panoramic view. Now, we've already made it past the part that I had my minimum goal on, at least to do the easy part. I could have easily just turned around and walked back at this point, but I decided to keep going. And I think the farther up we get, the more and more beautiful it gets. But at the same time, the more difficult the terrain is getting too. And then right along this edgeway, there was the drop-off that's a few feet from the trail. Made for some very stunning views. Very peaceful out here, very nice and quiet. Over here, these rocks made a great resting area. Got the slow motion of grasshopper. I noticed even the grasshoppers look a little bit different in different parts of the Oregon mountains when you get into different sections. I'm sure biologists could have a lot of things to look at around here. If you notice, even the bushes are changing out here. So at this point, about half the group left. A lot of the people that didn't want to be shown on YouTube were in the group. So you're going to start seeing some more people here in the video since I didn't have to edit them out. But these views are just absolutely amazing here, especially on the left side. So as we're making our way down the trail, we start running into other people. This is just the first of several individuals we came across. And that's when I started realizing that my comment about earlier, if the trail was used that often, I think the answer became a resounding yes, it still is used. It must have just been a lot of the recent rainfall that was causing the growth and some of the trails to almost disappear in some sections. Unfortunately, these trails are not very well marked, so it is sometimes very hard to see when we're on the trail. There were several times during this hike that we actually wandered off the trail a little bit because we saw a clearing and thought it was part of the trail and then realized it wasn't. And then sometimes this trail will break off into two different trails and then come back together again. So far, if you're liking this video, if you could just do me a favor, make sure you show up by hitting that like button. It does help my channel out a lot. So what do you think? Can you let me know in your comments if this is something that you'd want to try after watching this video. I don't know, personally I think that Las Cruces could easily be a major hiking as well as mountain bike destination. There's so many beautiful trails and places around here that I'm actually surprised that we don't get more ecotourism in this particular region. Maybe that will change here eventually, though, as maybe as word gets out. And one of the fun facts about the Oregon Mountains, it is named after pipe organs like on a piano, because the early Spanish explorers, when they saw the mountains, they thought it kind of resembled church organs, so that's why it's called the Oregon Mountains. I know in one of my other videos I did on a different hike, I had an individual that started mocking me because he assumed I misspelled Oregon, as in he thought it was supposed to have been spelled O-R-E-G-O-N. And of course, after I corrected him on his geography, I also suggested he check out my White Sands National Park Monument video in case he needs to bury his head in the sand over there. That's why you need to be careful before you mock somebody, I guess. There were times some of these bushes got so thick that it did make it a little challenging to get through certain areas. Now, we are hoping to get to the top of the mountain. However, time is working against us, so we're trying to move a little bit quicker now. Although I actually did speed up the video, so that's not necessarily literally how fast I'm going. Because it's going to get dark around 5 p.m. since this is, like I said, right before Thanksgiving. And so we're hoping that we can get to see that wonderful view at the very end. Because if we aren't far enough along, we're going to have to turn around and go back, because the last thing we want to do is be stuck out here in the dark, especially since none of us brought proper lights with us. You can see looking at this trail that you probably wouldn't want to be navigating this in the darkness. But at least I already beat the goal for 3 miles. We got some stunning views here. But unfortunately, we did have to turn around and go back because we were afraid that we were going to get caught in the dark. But we still were able to get to some places that I'm showing you in the video, where we got to see some amazing amazing things. So at least I can't say that this hike was a failure. You know, I did make my minimum goal, even though we didn't get to see the ultimate prize. So sometime I'm gonna have to try to come back. One thing I did notice was that my leg was just fine all the way up, but coming down this trail, when I kept having to step down and put my weight on it, even though I was using hiking sticks the whole time, that's when my leg really started hurting. So I ended up having to spend 3 days recovering from this hike, where I could barely walk. And also, don't forget, I have plenty of other videos for you to check out. And make sure when it pops up at the end to hit that the link to Las Cruces I met.